From the time he was a spokesperson for General Electric in the 50s all the way through his presidency, Ronald Reagan delivered thousands of speeches. His secret weapon for keeping his remarks fresh and lively? A detailed collection of quotes, proverbs, and jokes handwritten on index cards by the president himself. And for years, Reagan's notes were hidden away in his desk, well, until now. Author and presidential historian Douglas Brinkley was given access to Reagan's collection. He edited the new book, The Notes, Ronald Reagan's private collection of stories and wisdom. This morning, we are pleased to welcome back Douglas Brinkley. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This is a really fascinating glimpse into Ronald Reagan's psyche, what he was thinking, what was important to him, and those close to him called these notes the Rosetta Stone. Why is that?
Well, because his nickname was the Great Communicator, and how did he do it? There's so many people in politics. Why did Reagan connect with people better than other politicians? The answer are these note cards. He would read books, memoirs, or newspapers, and if he ever found a phrase he liked, or a saying, or a joke, or a quote, he would put it on these cards, and he created a very elaborate note system. And before he'd give a speech, starting in the 1950s with GE through his presidency, he'd pick these cards, put them in his suit coat, and then inject those what we consider Reaganisms into his public addresses. So it's the kind of the magic of the man's in the cards.
How did that note system work?
Well, he had a big black photo album that most people would put photographs in, and he would arrange the cards in that, and then so others were just with rubber bands on whatever category he thought they belonged into. He would travel with this collection wherever he went. It was always in his desk drawer. It was sort of his tool. I always think of as being a speech maker, which he was, and a spokesperson, you needed your tools, just like a carpenter needs your tools. His tools were these cards, and like Bob Hope or Will Rogers, a comedian, you know, he needed laughs. He knew that you don't bore your audience.
Interaction with the audience.
Yeah.
So there was a stack of them. How were they how were they discovered? Because in fact, weren't they just in one little area of the library, tucked away?
Apparently, when he died, these were he kept in his desk. All of these, this was his cards, a very important part of him. And they, of course, had to do the burial, and then they boxed up all these personal belongings. They got shipped to the Reagan Library and was basically warehoused. This past year, last year at this time, they started looking into how do we celebrate Ronald Reagan's 100th birthday, the centennial. And they started looking for maybe some things to show in the museum. They opened up just these brown boxes, and there they were.
Like
a treasure trove. And because I had edited President Reagan's White House diaries, I was called in and said, make some sense out of all this.
Did you just find it a gold mine there?
It's a gold mine. Yeah. Anytime you're a presidential historian like myself and you get to see the handwritten leavings of a president, it's interesting. But for Reagan in particular, to see how clever he was on learning, he had a joke and a line for every aspect of American life. Teachers or firemen or policemen or whatever group he was at, he knew what joke would work for that group, and he collected them really like a hobbyist. He collected quotes and jokes as if he was a stamp collector.
And these weren't just quotes and jokes, as you call them, from people that he believed in what they were saying. These are also from what? Mussolini, Stalin, the Communist Party, Nazi writings as well. Why do you think that is?
Well, what he did was he wanted to take on, let's say, the Soviet Union, communism. He wanted to go back and he looked at people like Lenin or Trotsky and found what is their philosophy. And he would put that on a note card so he could use it in a speech, then say, well, Trotsky says this, but I think this.
Kind of like research.
Yeah, this is his research, exactly. And there's an awful lot of Thomas Jefferson to novelists like Thomas Wolfe. He keeps even quotes from the Kennedys or George McGovern, and yet a lot of Abraham Lincoln. But mainly also when he would travel around, he'd get jokes, and he was a great storyteller. And so if somebody told him something that was funny, he would then write it down, and it'd be
from
his
everyday
joke.
people as well.
Very much, and the humor is that Borscht Belt 50s Dean Martin roast era humor, the kind of Bob Hope. Yeah. And he was, we don't ever forget Ronald Reagan was a Hollywood person and a showman. Buffalo Bill,
that's very true.
And he needed the words.
Was there anything in what you got a chance to look at and go through that was surprising to you or that just really struck you?
The generational jokes about hippies in the 60s, I mean, I should have figured it, but just how many of, men with long hair, what's going on with our society when the men are dressing like women kind of jokes, very circa 1967, 68 kind of humor. But also how wide read, different things he read. It wasn't just coming from a Bartlett's Book of Quotations or something. He was reading novels or policy books. Some of the books are by people that he's referencing aren't well known, but he was a much more voracious reader than biographers have understood, because he used to travel so much and bring a book with him, and he was constantly reading and writing, and we know that from his diaries, his massive correspondence, and now from the book, The Notes.
But weren't some of these notes tossed out as well? I mean, not all of them were kept.
Well, that's what we don't know fully what he kept, but I'm told, and people like, there are some speechwriters that know this, but also Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan know. I mean, I think sometimes he would throw away, obviously, a joke or a comment that didn't work, like a comedian.
Yeah.
If he tried something from his note cards and it was
flat,
flat, then you throw that card away. You don't want it in your gem collection.
This is just really fascinating. Like I said, it's a great glimpse into the man and the mind that was really what helped him be that great communicator. So thank you for shedding light on that. We do appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Douglas Brinkley. And once again, the book is The Notes, Ronald Reagan's private collection of stories and wisdom, and it's available now.